Hello friends, today I'm going to be showing you how to make baskets, and trust me, it's easier than you think. Hi, my name is Leslie and welcome to Happy Tuesday, where we do crafts and DIY and home decor and more. Whether you're crafting a basket for a gift, an egg hunt, or just to add some spring touches to your home, I will guide you through every step. Now, don't forget to stick around until the very end and I'll have a hint on one of next week's projects. So, grab your supplies and let's get crafting. Let's take a quick sneak peek into all 5 of today's projects. I am obsessed with these and had so much fun creating them for you. And that brings us to project number 1. This is one of my favorite baskets this week. So it started with this plastic container out of my recycle bin. I believe it was one that had some cocktail peanuts in it, and this 2mm macrame cord. And I am going to cut it just a little longer than the basket is tall, and I'll show you why here in a minute. I am going to cut lots and lots and lots of these pieces because we are going to cover the entire bottom of this plastic container with these macrame cord pieces. And once I've gotten a bunch cut, I am going to go ahead and grab them 2 or 3 or 4 at a time and some hot glue. I'm going to use my little plastic silicone spatula there so that I'm not going to burn my fingers as I am gluing these on to the bottom of the container. Now, no worries what it's going to look like because we're going to cover it up both from the inside and the outside. Once we've gotten the entire container filled, I'm going to grab another piece, and it's going to be slightly larger than the container is around. And you want it to be probably about 1.5 the size of the container because we are going to be using that to weave our little basket here. I'm going to take 4 of these pieces, and once I've got them all lined up, we are going to flip the container up and start our gluing. So we'll hot glue those 4 pieces in place, and then we are going to grab 4 on top and push them underneath this 4, and then we'll take the next 4 and put them on top of this 4. This is just a simple basket weave, and the reason why I chose a clear container is because it won't matter if any of it shows through. On this first row, I did kind of glue in between some of the rows of 4 just to make sure that this is going to be the bottom of our container so that the bottom stays in place and all the pieces remain in the place I want them to remain. And we're going to continue around 4 over, 4 under, simple basket weave until we get to the very end or the beginning where we started. Now, unlike some baskets, we're going to go ahead and trim on every row. So I'm going to go ahead and take this all the way to the end, and then we'll glue that piece right on top of the piece below. Make sure whenever you glue all your pieces on that you have the correct number so that you are going to end where you started. And then we will glue on the next 4, and we'll start right next to where we glued the first 4, and then we'll repeat the pattern in reverse. So if it was an under piece on the last round, it will be an over piece here, and you can kind of see how the pattern is coming together. Now, to keep our starts and ends hidden, I hid them about halfway underneath the pieces of 4 that are coming down. So you can kind of see what I'm doing here, and we're just going to continue doing this, making sure that all of our pieces are laying down and that you're tucking them up underneath the piece above it. Once you get to the very tip top, then we are going to trim off the pieces that are left, and we are going to glue those onto the inside.
First few pieces I did kind of individually, and then I clumped them together just so that I kind of had an idea of where I was going with this. And I did put glue at the top rim as well as going down inside the container. And again, no worries about what it looks like, because we are going to take our fabric and create a little piece inside of our basket. First, I'm going to start with a scrap piece of cardboard from another project, and I am going to cut a circle so that it fits on the bottom of the container. I'm also going to cut a second circle because we are going to put that on the inside of the container. Now grab your fabric, and we are going to go ahead and cut a couple of pieces that are just slightly bigger than our circle. Take our hot glue and glue it down, and then we are going to kind of trim it around, slit it up because this is a circle and it does lay better that way, and then hot glue each piece onto that center cardboard. Again, no worries about what it looks like because it is going to be glued to the bottom of our container. Once you've gotten that done, then we are going to create our inside. So in order to give it a nice presentation at the top, we are going to fold this over and glue it down. I just use regular hot glue, but you can use fabric glue if you wish, or you could sew that if you were so inclined. Now, one of these ends I will finish off when we figure out exactly how much fabric we'll need on the inside. But I'm going to glue it all the way around the top and a little bit down the side so that it stays in place. And here we've figured out how much we need. I've trimmed it off, and I will finish off that end. That way, when that last piece gets glued in on the inside, you will have a finished edge and it won't be all scraggly looking. And then we are going to push the remaining fabric down in the bottom and put our bottom in there. Then I grabbed some of this heavy duty wire I got from Walmart. This is 55-pound wire. I want to say it's 18 or 16 gauge. And we're going to take some more of that macrame cord, and we are going to wrap it all the way around our wire piece, and this is going to be our hanger for our basket. I left a little bit of metal there down at the end, and that's what we're going to secure our hanger to our little plastic container there. And then you can kind of cover it up with the pieces that you have underneath. And here is our basket, and I am in love with this little basket. I think it turned out so stinking cute. And if you didn't want fabric in it, since it's plastic, you could use it to pot a plant in.
I just wanted to pop in here real quick and say thank you. Whether this is your first visit or you're a regular subscriber, and y'all know who you are, I am honored that you choose to spend time with me. Now, if this is your first visit, if you would consider hitting that subscribe button and clicking the bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Give today's video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and comment below. Now, let's get back to crafting.
That brings us to project number 2. This one is super simple too. So we are just going to take this little plastic cup and some twine, and we are just going to glue that twine all the way around until you completely cover the entire cup. It's not that difficult, but does take a little bit of time, so be prepared for that. And again, since this is plastic, you could use this to plant something in it, and then you could use that as kind of a little centerpiece, or maybe a little gift to your guests, whatever you so desire. Now, of course, you know that I love to burn off my frayed edges, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and burn those off, but you can skip that step altogether if you want. For the hanger for this one, I'm just grabbing some of that wired twine that you can get at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go ahead and seal off my ends there, because once you cut it, it does tend to fray. So you want to seal that off with some glue. And we are just going to glue those to make your hanger just as long as your cup, because we're going to securely glue those inside the cup all the way to the bottom. So give yourself a good amount of glue and hold that in there. And then I grabbed this little piece of wire that we're going to wrap around and a little bit of ribbon. Both also came from the Dollar Tree, and we are just going to decorate our little basket up. Again, if you want to use this as a little gift, it'd be a really cute little hostess gift if you get invited to something this spring, and or maybe even a gift to your guests at a wedding. Then you can just kind of decorate it to match the wedding venue. I think that would be super cute. So I'm just going to do a little bit of this ribbon at the top and a little bit of this ribbon at the bottom. And then we're going to take our little wired decor piece with the beads on it and our little flowers, and we're going to put that around the handle. And that's all there is to this project. Isn't that just stinking adorable? I think so. And here it is, all complete. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. You know how I love to hear your comments. And that brings us to project number 3. This is my absolute favorite basket of the video. Now we are going to start with some of this rope from Dollar Tree. And I didn't notice this, but please pay attention. They actually had 10 millimeter and 13 millimeter, so you can decide which one you want. Now, the larger the rope that you use, the bigger you can make your basket with less steps. But that's totally up to you. I chose to use the 10 millimeter, and then I am using 4 millimeter macrame cord. I'm going to go ahead and thread it through my little yarn needle there, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Now you'll see I put that macrame cord along one end and then wrapped it around to secure it to our Dollar Tree cord. Now, if you don't have macrame cord, no worries. You can use whatever scrap yarn you have. You could use some other type of cord like that parachute cord, whatever you've got available. Remember, this is a craft your stash year, so don't go out and buy anything unless you're looking for a specific color as a gift. Now, once you get a little ways down, and I think it was about 1.5 inches, then you'll fold that over and then secure that down, and that becomes the center of your basket bottom. And then we are going to wrap a little bit more around and then start to secure it to the center. And so I figured I did about another 1.5 inches to 2 inches there. And then I am going to go ahead and grab my needle, and we are going to pull that up through the center. Now, make sure that when you do this, you don't catch some of the little edges of your cord, causing it to fray or pull apart or anything. Make sure you get it cleanly through. And then we're going to start a pattern, and it's time consuming to make this basket, but so satisfying and turns out so beautiful, but it is not difficult at all. So now we're just going to take our cord and we're going to wrap it along that rope, whatever number of times you choose. Now, I watched a lot of different basket makers do this, and pretty much the consensus was 4 times around. So we made 4 times around that cord, and then I'm going to pull my needle up through the center. And that will secure it to the center piece. Now you can see I'm struggling just a little bit, and I did hit a piece of that cord and kind of broke one of the little strands. So if it's kind of difficult to pull through, you probably caught something and you might want to pull your needle back out and start over. And then once you've gotten that done, then you're going to just continue wrapping 4 more times. And once you've gotten your 4th one wrapped, then you are going to pull that cord back up again through the bottom. And you're going to continue all the way around until you complete this first row. So you can see I've counted 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we are going to pull our cord through. Now as far as the gray color, our macrame cord, you can make that piece however long or short you want it, depending on how much you want to maneuver around. But keep in mind that you will have ends that you have to deal with the shorter you make it. So I did mine about 3 yards worth, however long it was from one arm to the other arm, and did that 3 times. So once you've gotten that first row all the way done, and you can kind of see when you get to that beginning piece again, then you're just going to continue on, but instead of running this one underneath through the center, you're going to run it underneath through that first row. So you can see here we are, and we are going to take it 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to take it up through that center of our first row. And then you're just going to continue on, and you will do this for how many ever rows you want to be the bottom of your basket. Now I will come back again as I am changing out rope. And so here we are, we're changing out our cord. So I have a little piece left, and I'm going to push that up underneath our rope. And then we're going to take our new cord and we're going to lay it right next to that. And then you're going to pull it under. Now, you just want to make sure that you bring it down as tight as possible, because it will leave a little lump in there. But no worries, you're not going to be able to see it, and you're going to count out the same way you would have counted out. You're just holding your ends there so that they're controlled. And then you'll do your 4 and bring it up underneath the row before that. And then you'll just continue on, making sure that you hide all your little ends so they're not poking out. And if you want at this point, you could trim that off. I just kept going since I didn't put a whole bunch there to begin with, just making sure. Now, one of the things in making this basket, unless you want your rope to show through, you want to make sure that your cord rows are as tight to each other as possible. You can check your work by looking underneath the bottom of your piece, but keep in mind it is the bottom, so even if there is a little bit of white showing through, it isn't the end of the world. Now, because I'm using Dollar Tree rope and not, a big old bolt of it, I had to secure ends together. So I'm just going to take the tape off of the ends and then open up one side and put some glue in there and put the other side in between the open ends, as you can see there, making sure that I got enough glue to secure it all together, and then you can hardly notice. Now I'm counting out from the center how many rows I have to make sure that all sides of my basket are even. And once I get the number of rows I want, then I'm going to start pulling that rope up over the row underneath it. And your first row, as you do this, will kind of be at a little bit of an angle, and then your next row will be directly on top of your basket, of the row before it. So as you can see, we are just going to continue doing 4 and 1, pulling it towards the row underneath it, so that they're stacked on top of each other, and that's how you're going to make the sides of your basket. Now, I chose to do a several colored basket. You may not choose to do that. You may want to keep it all one color, or you may want to change it out multiple colors, but I made sure that I had an even number of rows. And then you're going to change out the color the same way you add in additional strands of that macrame cord. It's exactly the same. So you'll lay the two pieces up underneath each other, and then you'll just continue on as you did before, just with another color. Cool thing about doing this is I knew exactly when I got to second row, because the end of the second row, because it matched up with where I had been. Now I'm going to make some handles for you, and so I used this little lace container that was left over to kind of decide how big I wanted my handles, and that was kind of my guide. And then I'm just going to wrap cord around. Now I chose 30 times around. That was how big I wanted my handle. So I'll just continue wrapping the cord until I get to 30 times. Now the first time I did this, I didn't know it was 30, so that's why I kept measuring it with my little lace bolt there. And once I got that done, then I am going to take my needle and we will secure it onto the basket the same way you secured all your other rows. And then I'm going to count how many spaces are in between when I get to my handle on the other side. Now I kind of eyeballed my handle for the other side, but you can actually count it and make sure that it ends up centered one side to the other. And then you'll just continue the same pattern 4 to 1 as you did all the way around. Now I ran out of my macrame cord right as I got to the end of the second handle, which was almost the end of my basket. So I'm going to secure that in there, and then for the end of the basket, I just cut my rope and trimmed it kind of in half so that I didn't end up with a whole bunch of bulk. And then I am just going to wrap that around and secure it with a little bit of hot glue. And then I'm going to tie it in a little knot, securing it down, trying to make it so that it's as least noticeable as possible. And then I will hide the remainder of my macrame cord inside the basket so that it has a clean and finished look. I also added just a little bit of hot glue to kind of keep my ends secured and to make sure that I didn't have anything fraying, and also to hide all the little strand pieces because I didn't want those showing. But I secured this down nice and tight so that you could, not really notice that there was a big bulk there. I mean, you can kind of see it. There's no way to really not see it unless you were able to build it into your handle in some kind of way that I couldn't. Now, honestly, this is my very first basket I've ever done this way, so I was really pleased with how it turned out. And that brings us to project number 4. This is such a fun and simple project. So I'm going to take my little T-square there, and I'm going to measure off, and then I'm also going to use my little compass and make some kind of rounded edges, and I am making an oval out of this cardboard piece. Using this compass felt like kind of a throwback to high school geometry. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this all drawn out, and then I will cut it out, and then we will move on to the next step. All right, for the next step of our basket, we are going to need a long piece of cardboard. I grabbed a small box and disassembled it into its components and then cut out the center. Then I'm going to cut it again. Now one piece is going to be kind of the base and the other piece will be on the top. Then I wanted to make sure that it was going to form to my oval, so I rolled it up in both directions, and then I am going to cut out one more oval piece for the bottom of my basket. So the bottom will actually be 2 of these oval pieces. One will cover up the other. Now for the bottom of the basket itself, it was kind of a thicker piece of cardboard, and then for the bottom of the basket, it was a thinner piece of cardboard. So I'm going to go ahead and get that cut out, and then grab some scrap fabric, and we are going to glue the fabric onto our bottom piece of cardboard and make sure that you get all that cut out, and then we are going to glue onto our long piece of cardboard. We'll eventually glue it onto the other piece as well, but we're not going to do that right now. And you only want to glue it onto one side, and then you're going to trim the other side, and I will show you why here in just 1 second. So we're going to glue this on so that your unfinished end is on top. So your finished end will connect with the cardboard piece on the bottom. Once you've gotten that all the way around, then you want to make a clean end. So you'll glue those together, and I held it long enough that it was good and sturdy, and then just trimmed off that edge. Now we're going to take our little wooden skewers and decide how tall you want your basket to be, and then you'll cut all your wooden skewers to that height. Now in hindsight, I would have done this slightly different. I poked all my little skinny skewer tops inside the bottom part, but I would have left those on the top, because when you put your top piece on, that would make it much easier. And then I spaced them about 5 apart, and you just want to make sure and space them so that you have the right number going around to fill all your holes and to make sure that your basket is even all the way around. Then I took some of this green macrame cord. You could use yarn or whatever you have. You could use a thick piece of twine, whatever you want for your basket. And we are going to glue that around. Now I did, I think, 5 layers of that, and then I grabbed another piece of macrame cord, and I am going to measure off 4 pieces, and then we are going to kind of plait this. So I just hung it on the end of one of my skewers there so that it held in place, and then we are just wrapping it from one side to the other. So you're going to start with 2 on each side, and you're just going to pull the outside one in and then the outside one in until you get it all plaited all the way around. And I made a very long piece so that I knew it would go all the way around my basket. And then I actually made 2 of these because it was going to take 2 rows. Now you can do that how many ever pieces you want to do. And then I just cut it off and secured it so that it was a nice finished end. Once I completed this step of my basket, I wanted to show you guys another kind of style, I guess. And so I am going to go back to the green, and I'm going to glue a little piece inside one of the skewers, and then we're going to go around every other skewer. Now I didn't have, unfortunately, an odd number of skewers, and so what I did was I got all the way to the end and then turned it around and went all the way in the other direction, so that kind of there at the end there was a couple that were overlapping. Then I'm going to go back in with the white, and here's another kind of choice that you could make, and I'm just going to wrap it around the skewer going all the way around. Now I did that twice, and then when I got to the end, I cut it off and secured it in, but then I'm also going to come in with some beads, and I'm going to put beads on the top of my skewers, and then I went in with another row on top of that, and then I took the inside part of the top and secured it right directly on top of the skewers, and that's why I would have left the pointy part to be on the top, and then secured that together so you can kind of see those are inside those skewers. And then I'm going to go back with my green and go around and around until I get just a little bit of that top left over. Now the inside still had a kind of unfinished edge, and so I took some of that Dollar Tree ribbon and secured it around the unfinished edges inside. And then I took my bottom piece of my cardboard and secured some more fabric on there. And then we are going to glue that onto the bottom and a little bow. And this basket is complete. I love how easy this was, but how complicated it looks. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. I think this would make the cutest little basket to give a shower gift in. And that brings us to project number 5. This is the superest, simplest basket. I just took one of those grow cups and poked some holes across from each other, grabbed a little bit of wire and stuck it inside the hole. And then I am going to grab my little jewelry pliers and turn the end of that wire around so that we can secure it inside the hole, but it won't be too difficult to get out because you are going to use this as kind of like a gift basket. Again, another one of those gifts that you could give to your guests if they're coming to your table for a holiday meal maybe, or you could give as a hostess gift to someone or a shower gift. And then we're just going to fill it up with a little bit of basket fill. And I have one of those little, I guess they're the dirt circles that you put in water and it fills up, and a little bit of seeds. And then I grabbed some embellishments, some little florals and a little bee. And we are going to decorate our little cup up, but with nothing that is too difficult that they can't take off if they want to just throw this into the ground and plant after they start their little seed cup. And that's all there is to this project. Super simple. These are mostly Dollar Tree finds that I have, these little felt letters. I decided to spell out grow, and they're just sticky back, so they stuck right onto that cup. And super simple, a nice, like I said, a nice simple little gift. This could be even something that you want to do with your grandkids. They could give it as a teacher gift. All kinds of fun stuff you could do with this. And that is it. I also, I guess, grabbed a little bit of raffia and put a little raffia bow on there. And here it is, all complete. I just love how simple and cute that is. But such a thoughtful little gift that you could give. And here are all 5 of our baskets for a final look. There's our little twine one with the plastic cup. So sweet. And then our recycled plastic container, our little grow cup. So let me know in the comments below if you are going to make any of these baskets or which one was your favorite. You can email me if you make any of these baskets, or if you have another idea for me at HappyTuesdayDIY@gmail.com. You know I love to hear from you guys. I've gotten some sweet emails with recreations lately, and I'll be sharing those with you soon.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really did enjoy our time together. Now, since you stuck around until the very end, here's your hint on one of next week's projects. Yes, you guessed it. We are going to be using yard debris. I have a super cute project planned for y'all. But until then, make it a great day and happy Tuesday!